the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown. My name is Ron. I'm an alcoholic. Hey! Whoa, doggy. Welcome to our anniversary meeting. Got plenty of food there. It's important, real quick announcement. We have a Facebook page. Keeps you up to date, not only with this group, but all the events that are going on in the area. So, it's Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown. The mini convention for the day has been recorded. It'll be put on CDs. You can pick it up at our sister group, which is a Big Book Study, meets on Thursday, 7:30 p.m. at Salem UCC Church, or back here next week. We'll eventually get that online somewhere on the planet. So stay alive and keep internet running. Anyway, Brian's going to come up here and he's going to chair this meeting. We got a pretty exciting speaker and a pretty exciting night lined up with.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Brian, and I am an alcoholic. Special night tonight. It is our anniversary celebration. We had speakers throughout the day covering all of the steps, culminating in the speaker tonight. I want to thank everybody who spoke today, everybody who did service work to contribute to put this thing together. It's really been great, and we'll kick this thing off. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street at 8:30 in Doylestown, PA. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday, 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. right here. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teachings of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone that is new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves by first name? Yes?
Jay, I'm an alcoholic.
Jay, welcome. Go ahead. John, welcome. Yes?
Brian, alcoholic.
Brian, welcome.
Nick, alcoholic.
Nick, welcome.
Mitch, I'm an alcoholic.
Mitch, welcome. Good to have you. Anybody else in the back there?
Alex, alcoholic.
Alex, welcome. We get everybody? Okay, cool. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and that is willing to sponsor, please raise their hands. You can look around the room. If you're new, grab one of those people after the meeting and we'll help you get into the solution. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Go ahead, yes.
Yeah, it's the Alcohol and Drug Addict. We have a new club at Somerset and Kensington, 10, 12, 6, and 8, 7 days a week. Hot dogs and beans are on Wednesdays, Sundays, spaghetti and meatballs, and Saturdays, cheat sheet banana split.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else got anything? No? We good? Okay. This group has a couple of quick announcements. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any homebrew member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books or CDs to help those who cannot afford them can put donations in the jar on the back marked Big Book and CD donations. If you would like a CD of any speaker, past or present, please see me or Ron after the meeting. They are available free of charge. And with that, I believe Heather's going to come up here and she's going to do the AA Preamble.
My name's Heather, I'm an alcoholic. The Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, and does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And Scott's coming up to read the 12 steps.
My name is Scott, I'm an alcoholic. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
Thank you, Scott.
All right, 7 tradition. Every A group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. We're going to pass the basket. We have no dues or fees, but we do have expenses. Your contributions will help us to provide services such as putting together these workshops, paying for rent, CDs, etc. There's absolutely no smoking on the church property. That's the church's policy. We're very lucky to have this beautiful facility to hold our meeting in, and that's really all they ask of us, is that we don't smoke on the property, keep it clean. So if you could please be considerate of that as you're coming and going. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting as to avoid distractions. And now to introduce our speaker for tonight, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group, on loan to us from the Outsiders Group of Herkimer, New York. Please help me welcome Scott Tate.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Scott Tranter. I am an alcoholic. It's good to be here in Doylestown, Pennsylvania again. I was here a few years back, and you have a beautiful town, beautiful city there, and I love the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I hope I get to express that tonight when I share a little bit about what I was like, what happened to me, and what it's like today. I'd like to welcome the newcomers. I know people raise their hand. And I'd like to welcome you to the greatest show on earth. This is the greatest show on earth. I was told many, many years ago that this is $1 million program. Now, it's shoved up your ass a nickel at a time, but it's $1 million program, okay? Depends on how we want to work it. Thank you, Ron, for inviting me. What a privilege and an honor it is to get to participate in a program that absolutely saved my life. When I first came to Alcoholics Anonymous 46 years ago, I was not looking for a 12-step program of recovery or a spiritual solution to a soul sickness I didn't think I had. As a young kid, grew up in Boston, grew up in the projects, know what it's like to stand in line and get blocks of cheese and powdered milk and have Catholic Charities and Salvation Army come take me and my brothers out. And police always at my house. My dad was that tornado roaring through the lives of others, warped lives of blameless wives and children, the sweet relationships that get deadened. I didn't know any of this at the time. I just knew I didn't want to be like them, okay? I had goals, dreams, and aspirations, the things I wanted to do and the things I wanted to become. And the type of neighborhood I grew up in, my friend Shamal Curran says, as far as men go, we don't show feelings, we don't show emotions. Grew up Irish and Catholic, and you wouldn't go out in the neighborhood and tell your friends you had a heart condition, because if you did, they'd punch you in the chest just to see how bad it was, okay? So you kept all this stuff inside. And at a church dance, 13 years old, I had my first arrest for drunken disorderly conduct and assault and battery on a police officer. Okay, drinking age was 18. And so if you hung in the neighborhood, you hung with older kids, it was real easy to get booze. And I'm talking even 14, 15 years old, you had money, you could go in there, the Irish pub, Kelly's pub, they would serve you. They were bartenders from the old country, and if you had money, they served you. It wasn't a lot of the issues that we have today. And you hear people that get up and talk, and that's another thing too, when they introduce me as a speaker. I don't consider myself a speaker. I consider myself a talker, because the book says that it's one alcoholic talking to another alcoholic. No lectures to endure, no axes to grind. I'm not here to speak to you or lecture you. I'm here to have a conversation and talk to you a little bit about what this terrible illness can do. I drank because I didn't like the way I felt. You know, people will say that they grew 6 feet tall and their pimples fell off and they could talk to girls. My experience was I could just breathe because I was in a world I didn't belong. You know, and if you just leave me alone, I'll be okay. You know, that selfishness and self-centeredness that it talks about, some of the common traits of alcoholism, I had that before I even really picked up my first drink. You know. And when I picked up that drink, it just made it okay. Not that I could do all these other things, I could just survive in this world, because you really didn't understand me. You know, when I had already been to Alateen. Any people been to Alateen? It's a program for children of alcoholics. I would take the trains into South Boston and the Southie and go to Alateen, and I didn't get anything out of Alateen. The honesty of it is because I didn't want anything out of Alateen. Okay, it was a place for me to go and manipulate and get you to feel sorry for Scotty and the way I was being raised. Went to Al-Anon. Any Al-Anons here? A few? All right, we're still going to try to have fun. No, just kidding, just kidding. I loved the program of Al-Anon at the time. Now, this is the early 70s. The second edition, okay, was being used. Bill Wilson actually had just died. And I would go to these Al-Anon meetings with my mom, and to me, there were no men in Al-Anon. There were just women that sat around the table and complained about their wives. My dad was the type of alcoholic that sat down the street in his van drinking while we were at these meetings, and then follow us home and then proceed to beat my mom up, call her a whore. Who was she meeting there? Why was she telling, you know, these people, these strangers, her business, his business? And so I had a lot of misconceptions. Now, mind you, he's in AA, okay? He's going to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. I remember I shared this morning when I kicked off your anniversary, and happy anniversary. Happy anniversary. That's great. Yeah, happy anniversary. You know, I remember in the 60s getting up and my brothers and my mom in the kitchen crying and finding out that my dad had hit and killed a woman in a blackout. Okay, he was on Darvon, Librium. These are some of the old drugs, and drinking. His dad had died, my grandfather, and in the blackout, a woman crossed in front of him and he hit and killed her. You know, and how do you process that as a young kid, right? And so he's going to AA, and I still see him drinking. I still see him driving without a license. I still see these things, and all of a sudden I'm arrested and they send me to AA. And I went to the young people's group at St. Castroncinum's Church in North Quincy, and the youngest young person was like 30. You know, and I'm this kid, and they're talking about going to jail and car accidents and all this. And they would interview you back then, believe it or not. You knew people and stuff coming in. They would actually sit you down and interview you to see if you belonged then. And that's what they did to me. And they interviewed me, and they basically precluded me from AA. They said I was too young, and that I was more of the juvenile delinquent type, and that if I could learn to deal with my anger, I might be okay. Now, I love it because later when I finally read the book, but the book talks about this. Through the experimentation, the self-deception, I will try to prove myself an exception to the rule, therefore non-alcoholic. And so armed with this stuff, and AA even saying it, I kept going out there defending my right to drink. Now, I covered the first step this morning. You know, admitting it was easy to the probation officer, my mom, the judge. Yeah, I got a problem drinking, you know. But see, I wasn't looking for that recovery. I was just looking for you to get off my back. I hadn't accepted to my innermost self. It says this is the first step in recovery. I didn't accept the fact that I had a problem, even though all the outside circumstances were proven that I did, because I'm a blackout drinker. Any blackout drinkers there? Any projectile pukers? So I can drink more. You know, I loved everything about drinking. I loved it going down. I loved it coming back up so I could drink more. And I would not accept my innermost self. And so I kept going. You know, and the bottom line is this vicious cycle. I had my first detox. I know we got some recovery homes here. I had my first detox at 14. 16, I was eating out of dumpsters and trash cans, going into drug and alcohol rehabilitation programs, the type of shave your head, make you wear dunce caps, sit on the bench, clean dumpsters with toothbrushes, that tough love, they called it survival. California, they called it Synanon. Try to tear you down in order to build you back up. Started doing some of those outside issues that really aren't outside issues that our book covers when it talks about gin and sedatives. What is that? That's drugs and alcohol. So I started searching for the magic elixir so I could drink more or drink less, constantly coming in and out of AA because I had to. It was court ordered, you know. Soul started getting really dark. My soul started getting really, really dark. And I was hearing the things that we talked about today about just go to meetings, meeting makers make it, just don't drink, you know, put the plug in the jug, all that stuff. I heard all that. I didn't really hear anything about the steps, didn't hear anything about the big book, because it was really just don't drink and come to meetings. And how it worked in Massachusetts back in the 70s is you couldn't even share unless you had 90 days. Okay, you had to have 90 days. And this is a conscious contact group. I don't know your other names of your other groups, but you wouldn't even lead your own meeting. An outside group would come in and lead your meeting. They call them commitments, and you didn't even share at your own meeting. And in order to go on those commitments, you had to have 90 days. And I never quite got 90 days. Okay? And I was starting to pay a price. You know, I was starting to pay a price through the blackouts, and it was starting to get a little painful. And I heard about sponsorship. Get yourself someone you can relate to. And I don't know about you, but I didn't relate to anybody. And I remember sitting in there, and how it worked back then is, what's your name? Mitch. Let's say Mitch is my sponsor. And I'm going to take an anniversary medallion. I'm sitting out there, and this guy, Fred, was taking a 4-year anniversary medallion. And his sponsor got up and said all this wonderful stuff about Fred, the steps he had taken that year, kind of like that year, his community involvement, not just AA, but his community involvement and so forth. And then Fred got up, and I'll never forget it because he took his medallion and he looked at it, and he said, you know, I was really nervous this morning when I woke up because I knew I was going to have to get up here in front of all you people. So I smoked a joint to take the edge off. Okay? And he went on, and everybody clapped, and I got to tell you, I love what Fred had to say. So that meeting got over, and I went right up to Fred and asked him to be my sponsor. That was my first experience with sponsorship in Alcoholics Anonymous, okay? Now, you did not talk about drugs from the podium. That was an outside issue. I saw people literally get drug off the podium for talking about drugs. So I had a lot of misconceptions on what AA was and what AA wasn't. You know, I remember I shared this morning going over to my sponsor's house to start working the steps, and I walked in and he's sitting at his coffee table there smoking a joint, getting ready to take me through the steps. Okay? Here, you want some? We're about to get spiritual. Now, I love it because years later, when I finally read that book, okay, when I finally took that prescription that's outlined in the book, Dr. Silkworth closes all those loopholes when he says that we can't take alcohol in any form and that the only treatment we have to offer is complete abstinence. That's a little marijuana maintenance. That's a little social heroin, a little rock cocaine, whatever your trip is. That's not sobriety. See, I didn't know that. I honestly thought smoking weed was okay. And it's not. Because that helps change my perception of reality. See, I'm a nerd, and I drink and have a few drinks. I don't feel like a nerd anymore. Now, I'm a nerd, and I have a couple more drinks, and it's like, what was I thinking? You're a nerd. Now, I'm a nerd, and I have a few more drinks, and it's like, you're the nerd, right? You know, screw you. My whole perception of reality changes when I start putting these chemicals into my system. I loved it because when this gentleman said, I'm an addict alcoholic, okay? That's like saying I'm from Doylestown and Pennsylvania, okay? It's like, I used to differentiate myself from you, and I'm talking about Alcoholics Anonymous because I'm an alcoholic. I'm an alcoholic of the hopeless variety. But see, I'm looking for that edge and stuff, and now I'm a dope fiend alcoholic. Now I'm an alcoholic addict. Now I'm this, now I'm that. I'm a hyphenated alcoholic. And it was explained to me, how can you help me if you differentiate yourself from me? This is the common solution that we're going to talk about and get going with, is this 12 steps that's going to remove this obsession and leave me usefully and happily whole. You know, my sponsor said to me many years later, he says, Scott, let's take all the real alcoholics, let's pretend this is the Titanic, and let's take all the real alcoholics and put them on this side of the ship. And let's take all the addict alcoholics and put them on this side of the ship. He said, and guess what? I go, what, Ted? He goes, it's still going down, okay? You're still screwed. He says, so don't get caught up in all that controversy. Just be one of us. Just be one of us. You know, I remember going to a meeting several years ago up in Utica, New York, and this guy always, but I didn't, I'm a cross-addicted alcoholic. I'm a cross-addicted alcoholic. So finally one day I went up to him, I said, dude, are you a pedophile? And he goes, what? And I said, I'm saying, are you a pedophile? No, how could you even think that? And I go, well, because you're cross-addicted. I said, this is Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know what you're addicted to. I said, you might have people here just like me think you're a friggin' child molester. He never shared that again. He was always just an alcoholic. It's amazing what the mind can do to the mind to differentiate, to separate, consciously separate myself from. See, and that's what we do with alcoholism too. With this spiritual program, with this surrender where our egos get deflated just enough to experience that moment so that we can experience that psychic change that's going to be sufficient enough for us to recover. What's the psychic change? It's a spiritual experience. It says, I don't want to live like this anymore. But see, our mind will start convincing our mind that it's okay to get loaded again. If I don't go through that process, and what's the process? It's the process of uncovering this stuff, discovering really what's inside, and discarding all the crap that's blocking me from this power, because I have a conscious separation from this power. And I'm not talking religion here. I'm talking about power. You know, I shared today earlier, I remember being out at the Rafters in New Hall, California, and this is just to show you the mind. This guy came in, his name was Twin Jim. He's got about 32 years sober now, in his 30s. But he came in, never been to church, never was raised in religion, never had any of that. And he came in his very first meeting, I was there. And when we held hands at the end and we did the Lord's Prayer, Our Father, and he was sitting there, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. He heard, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And he said, okay, I'm willing. It's Harold. And for the next 5 years, he prayed to Harold. Okay? And the guy's got 30-something years sober now, okay? It took him 5 years to find out, you know, his name's not Harold, but that worked for him. And that's the point. Are you honest? Are you open-minded? Are you willing to try something different? Are you willing to take a set of actions, okay, that are going to change this perception of reality? See, and I wasn't willing to do that in the 60s, because I know. You know, I know. And it led me to a lot of heartache. You know, scared straight programs, you know, jails, all that other stuff, till finally the bottom fell out and I just didn't want to live. You know, it says in Dr. Silkworth and the Dr. Spear, we're maladjusted to life and full flight from reality and outright mental defectives. I like telling people those are some of our finer quality traits, right? You know, they're diagnosing me suicidal, homicidal, manic depressive, strapping me to beds, all this. And all those were common manifestations of alcoholism. Untreated alcoholism. Okay? And I find myself wanting to change. Suicide was an issue. I got arrested for armed robbery. I was an adult now. I was in the Charles Street jail, oldest jail in New England, 5 tiers. A guy got thrown off the 5th tier, you know, and killed, and it scared me to death. I went home, got bailed out 3 days later, went home to this dingy apartment, cut my wrists, you know, came out of it on the critical list 5 days later. woman came and saw me, told me about this guy named Jesus Christ, that if I accepted him as my personal Savior, behold, everything would be new. I don't know about you, but alcoholics are my type. We go from one extreme to the next. We're either really good or really bad, and so I figured, why not? And I went into this program called Teen Challenge, okay? And I quit swearing, smoking, watching TV, listening to rock and roll. I started going to Bible study 7 hours a day, church 7 days a week. I started traveling New England, giving my testimony how Christ has saved my life. And became a Bible thumper, entered the ministry. I was going to become a preacher, and I'm going into revivals in rooms as big as this, and people passing out, talking in tongues, getting filled with the Spirit. And I'm that square peg trying to fit, because these Christians, they had something in the eyes that I wanted. I didn't quite know what it was, but they had something in the eyes that I wanted. It's sort of like, I liken it today to like some of these old timers, they got that shit-eating grin, right? You don't quite know what it is, but you want it, and that's what they had. And so I'm an actor, right? And we covered this all today in the steps. I can be more demanding, more gracious, whichever the case is, but I'm still trying to get my way, and I'm an actor, and so I decide that I'm going to get filled up with the Spirit like they are, okay? And they get filled up and fall out, and so that's what I did. I got filled up with the Spirit, and I fell out and hit my neck and my back, and I was getting hurt, okay? These guys weren't getting hurt, because this was a real experience for them. For me, I'm acting. And so I'm a quick study, and I'm not going to do that anymore, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk in tongues. You got to follow me here, right? 'Cause I'm going to talk in tongues like they are. And so I'm at the revival, and all of a sudden I start making this stuff up. Now you got to follow me, right? Because I call this my throne of judgment, right? Because I'm at this revival, and I start making this stuff up. And all of a sudden, Ron over here starts interpreting what the Spirit's telling him I'm saying. So I know he's full of crap, right? Because I'm full of crap. And now in my mind, this whole thing's full of crap, right? Now, I didn't say any of this, okay? But this is what I'm thinking. And so I'm 3 months into this program, 3 months away from a drink. I'm 3 months away from my solution. Okay, stark raving sober. Not work the steps. Okay, unbeknownst to me, I didn't understand that the way the big book is designed from the doctor's opinion at page 63 deal with a couple things and a couple things only, and what they are conclusions of my mind. That I'm alcoholic, I accept that to the innermost self, I have that surrender. My life's unmanageable, and manageability simply means not achieving one's purpose. I come to believe that, not in, but that a power can restore me to sanity. I used to think that it was talking about the sanity of the world, when really it's not. It's talking about, as we go through the process and get up to that 10th step, by this time sanity will have returned. Sanity is a form of sound judgment, okay? So that this mind will not convince this mind to get loaded again. That's really the insanity of the first drink. And so coming to believe that this power, not in, see, that's the soft con of AA. That's later. I don't have to believe in right then. I just have to believe that by seeing you and seeing this work in other people's lives, that this power, great spirit, creative intelligence, universal spirit, whatever you want to call it, okay, it's not a religious program, that this power can solve the problem. Because that's the main object of it, is to enable me to find this power that's going to solve my problem. The main thing is that I believe in this power. But that's later. Right now, I just have to believe that and have that willingness. And then make the decision to turn my thoughts and my actions, my will and my life over to this power. Then we make the inventory, right? Fearless and thorough, not amoral, but moral inventory. That's good and bad. Moral inventory, checks and balances. That's something I had never done. I was so scared of that fourth step, not understanding how it worked in the big book, in the program, that I had to write all my bad stuff, and it was all about me. Bad, 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 bad. That's not what it is. But it was a fear that I had from listening to people that weren't properly armed, like my sponsor, smoking weed, right? Weren't properly armed with the facts about themselves, let alone this program and how it worked. And I woke up in this program with that moment of clarity. And the moment of clarity was, Scotty, you're still playing a game. You're still full of crap. See, the 4-step is designed, it's like a cup of coffee that you can take in the bathroom and drip cool, clear water in it and come back in a half hour or after the meeting. It's still going to be dark and dirty on the inside. See, the 4th and 5th step's designed to dump that stuff so that maybe I can retain some of this good stuff. And what I'm trying to say is that I'm in AA for years and I'm in this Christian program for months and I'm trying to put all this good stuff in me, but I'm still dark and dirty inside. And the stuff that's inside me is like gangrene. And if I don't get it out, I know it's going to kill me. And so that moment of clarity came and I went to the director of the program and I said, listen, I got a lot of stuff that I did and I need to get it out. And he started quoting scripture to me that we had the strength to face all conditions through the power of Christ Jesus. Don't you believe? Yes. And so I'm quoting it back and forth to him, and that defiance came up in me. You know, and in the 12 and 12 it talks about defiance being one of our chief character traits. And I started becoming defiant. And so I told him what he could do with that program. And I walked away from it. You know, and I heard a saying way back in 1972 that the man takes a drink, the drink takes a drink, and the drink takes the man. And that's what happened to me one more time. See, the misconceptions that I had with AA is I know I'm an alcoholic. I know that. I know I'm doomed. I can't drink. I know about the physical allergy of the body coupled with the obsession of the mind. Okay, I know that when I put alcohol in my body, I'm a blackout drinker. I don't know what's going to happen. I know that. It's going to lead me into all these other things. I did a lot of bad things. And I love it when people come in and say, we're not bad people, we're just sick people trying to get better. That's true. That is true. But I was bad. Okay, I did a lot of bad things. Okay, and my friend Jim Buckley said, it's time you start doing some good things, Scott, years later. You know, and I decided that I really am not going to drink anymore. That surrender had happened, that experience, I'm not going to drink anymore. I'm just going to smoke a little weed, because that's not my problem. Remember the misconceptions. I honestly thought that was okay. And it's just a matter of time before you know, you get that cotton mouth, you're sitting at a party, beer passes in front of you. Book says eloquently that we can't bring to sufficient force, I'm paraphrasing here, the pain, the misery of a week or a month ago. We succumb, as so many of us do, one more time, and next thing you know, I'm loaded. Fast forward November 14th, 1979, I find myself, before I get to that, you know, I was coming here, we took a weird way and came through the Poconos and everything by Norristown. I spent time in my drunken days in Manayunk, okay? And then came out and house sat for my friend Joe Davis's aunt in Norristown. And I was telling my wife when we went through Norristown that I saw a girl die there in 1977. A bunch of kids that were drunk in a car accident, and the car flipped over on it. And I was right there and got to see it and saw her expire. You never forget that stuff, because we don't think it's going to happen to us, you know, because our cases are different. And you know, I find myself November 14th, 1979, sitting on this bridge called the Bourne Bridge in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And I tell this story to show the cunning, baffling, and powerfulness of this disease, okay? Because I climbed up this bridge and I was up there 4.5 hours. Our Corps of Engineer, Coast Guard were down below in the Cape Cod Canal with spotlights on me, and the Good Samaritan Suicide Prevention League's talking to me on bullhorns, and state police had blocked it off, SWAT teams were there, and you know, underneath is this campground, and all the campers came out, Bourne Scenic Park, and they set up lawn chairs and stuff, and they're yelling at me, jump, you mother! Jump, right? And I'm looking at these people, going, man, these guys are crazy. I'm 169 feet up in the air, right? I'm going, man, these guys are crazy. Don't they know if I jump, I'm going to die, right? You know, and it says we're delusional people, and I'm sitting up there, I got me on me, and I can't get me off of me. I was so very, very alone. And I don't care if you're a man or you're a woman, the feelings, the emotions are basically the same. And they say that this is a disease of loneliness deep down that nothing can touch. And I was so very, very alone. resentment, the number one offender, Latin word, recentare, refeel, rethink, replay. And that's what I'm doing on this bridge. I'm replaying my life. And the woulda, coulda, shouldas, and I should have turned left, and when I turned right, you know, and thinking all just the negative things. And then the delusion that I'm born in a different time. I might be an alien, you know. They didn't have Ancient Aliens on TV at the time, but that would have been mine. Okay, from the Anunnaki that came 400,000 years ago and changed our DNA. Well, you go off on that stuff, right? But I'm sitting up on this bridge in 79 thinking this stuff that I, you know, was born, I should have been born in a different time. I would have been a great knight in King Arthur's court, right? I would have been like Dillinger, right? I would have been a great gangster, okay? And I'm thinking all this stuff, how the West was won. And I remember that the Indian Sioux chief, and there's 200 braves behind him, and there's 10,000 cavalry, and he's going down, he says, today's a good day to die, right? And I'm saying all this stuff up there. And I had that moment of clarity 4.5 hours into it, and it's like, I don't want to die. What are you doing? You know, what are you doing? I had gotten married, my son was born, it's all these other stories, but we share about 5% of our stories when we get up here. Restraining orders against me, all this stuff going on, and I think, there's got to be something. There's got to be something out here. And there's something I haven't tried. And I made the conscious decision to get down. And this is where the cunning, baffling, and powerfulness of this disease took over, because I had another thought, and it was an honest thought. And the thought that jumped into my mind was that, you know what, Scotty, if you get down, you're going to look like a pussy to all these people that have waited all this time for you to jump. You got to jump. And so I turned and I jumped. I don't remember hitting. They say I died. The only bone I broke was my sternum bone, my chest cavity, and that was from them giving me the pericardial dumps, bringing me back to life. Now, I'm going to fast forward a couple quick stories here. About 18 years ago, I was given a talk, 19 years ago now. Yeah, it would have been 19. Given a talk in Middleborough, Massachusetts, which is real close to this bridge, about 20 miles from it. And my mom was still alive, and a couple of my brothers, he's passed now. But anyway, I had a lot of family there, and I told that story about the bridge. And that meeting got over, and it was a church, and this guy comes busting through the crowd. And this was him, not me. He goes, "Oh, I owe you an amends. I owe you an amends." And I looked at this guy. I said, "Dude, I don't even know you." He goes, "No, you wouldn't know me." He goes, "We were at the bar in Toby." He goes, "And it came across the scanners that they had a jumper." He goes, "So we rolled some weed, got some Jack Daniels." He goes, "And that was me yelling at you to jump." Right? He goes, "And you did," right? And the guy had like 10 years sober in AA. So probably 10 years ago, I'm giving a talk in Palm Springs, California. And I tell that story. And that meeting gets over, and they had a receiving line. This guy, real distinguished suit, tie, comes through the line. He goes, "I always wondered what happened to you," right? And I go, "I'm sorry, sir, I don't know you." He goes, "No, you wouldn't know me." He goes, "I was the captain of the state police barracks in Buzzards Bay that called out all the rescue vehicles." He goes, "I was a practicing alcoholic at the time. I got 20 years sober now." So you got 3 different people, 3 different walks of life, all at that one event, all sober members of Alcoholics Anonymous. You hear people joke, "Is that odd, or is that God?" Or, you know, and I don't know. But it's just, God is funny. My sponsor told me the only 2 words he ever heard God say, ever, was ha-ha. Right? Ha-ha. But I wasn't done, okay, because I'm no quitter. Found myself in the hospital. I need discipline is what I need, right? That's what I said to myself. I need discipline. So actually in Pennsylvania, I joined the Army, United States Army. Came out of a blackout at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Next thing's Fort Benning. My Army career was 6 months. Benning House program of alcoholism and abuse every morning in front of the CO. Okay, till they finally kicked me out unfit for military life. They gave me an honorable discharge. But I figured, okay, land of golden opportunity, Hollywood, Beverly Hills, I'm going to Cali. Okay, I'm going to be discovered. I'm going to be in a rock and roll band. I'm going to be a movie star, right? All this stuff. Delusions of grandeur. And I got out there, and I was out there 6 days, and I came out of a blackout. And I'm in LA County Jail. And I heard a saying real quick, and that's that you come on vacation and you leave on probation. The only problem was they weren't letting me go. And before that whole ordeal was over between LA County, San Bernardino County, and Riverside County, I had 22 years sentencing in the state penitentiary in California. Okay? And those of you that have been in jail know that it's nothing but a human kennel that breeds violence. And I let it breed the violence in me, and I became an absolute animal. I got tattoos all over my body. I was very racial. I came from one of the most racial capitals of the country, Boston, in the 70s. We had forced busing and everything, and I brought those same attitudes into the penitentiary with me. There were only 11 institutions in California at the time. Now there's 70-something of them, right? And I made it up to this institution called Tehachapi, and I got invited to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I went in and I sat down. I had my Bonnaroos on and my bandana and all this, and they had a Southern California H&I, Hospital and Institution, and they brought panels in. And I'm sitting there, and this guy gets up. His name's Eddie Miracle. Now, I don't know about you, but I judge people. Ice Cream Eddie, you know, we all got names. Jimmy the Brick, you know, we got names for different AA members, right? And I thought, oh, that's a cute name, Eddie Miracle. Well, that was his real name, Eddie Miracle. and he got up and he said, you know, if you're new, you've come home. You need never be alone again. You're like the prodigal son who had to venture out there, and now you're home. He started talking a lot about Chuck Chamberlain. Chuck was alive, and this is a disease of perception. Is our glass half empty or half full? You know, they read a portion of chapter 5 from the big book on how it worked. I had never heard that. I had never heard how it worked. Remember, there's different customs all over the country. They didn't do that reading. They didn't do readings in Boston and Massachusetts, where I come from, Quincy. The meeting started, the meeting ended, okay, with the Lord's Prayer. So all of a sudden, they're reading a portion of chapter 5, and I'm thinking, oh, that's how it works. And then they read chapter 3, more about alcoholism, okay? And I'm thinking, that's me. That's me that they're talking about. And this guy, Eddie, talked about, you know, we're all children of God. For me to love you for your color, you not for your color, that there's no room for hypocrites in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Either we're all God's kids or none of us are. What was my choice going to be? You know, and I liken that today. It's like I got a lot of kids and grandkids and stuff. My youngest one, Caleb, I can take and throw up in the air. He has the complete faith, hope, trust, love in the world. I'm going to catch him. I'm not going to drop him on his head. And when I look at that, I had that at one time. You had that at one time. And then I grew up in this world of gimme, 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 take, first come, first serve, early bird gets the worm. If I don't do it, someone else is going to, I got to get mine right. All these hates and prejudices and stuff. I was taught. And so I had that shift, that aha moment was, it wasn't so much that I had to learn all these new things as it was going to be a process of unlearning all the crap I thought I knew. All the crap I grew up with, all the crap I was taught. Because see, I had that when I was a kid. I had that love and faith and hope. And that's our book as we get through this process and we get back to we're reborn. And it's talking about the Spirit. It's talking about that childlike faith again, that there is this power, that it's going to be okay. And I believe luck and chance was passing me by, and I reached up and I grabbed onto it. And I worked the steps, all 12 of them, in order. The elevator to sobriety is broke, you must use the steps. And I became free inside the walls, you know. Having had that spiritual experience as a result, or awakening, as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message. What is this message? It's the message of hope. It's the promise of the freedom of the bondage of self. It's all these little things, the common solution of this 12-step and how we recover. And I'm doing that inside the walls. So I went back to school and I got my GED because I had quit high school. Okay, and I got 4 years of college behind me. And I went for this underwater diving program that they had at Chino State Prison, and I came in second over all the institutions, and I got accepted. And I was due to go, and all of a sudden I got my ducat. I was getting excluded from the program because, remember, I say we only share a little bit of our stories. Back in the 70s, through alcoholism, I broke my C2 vertebrae, okay? Had it snapped on me in a fight. And they said that my body wouldn't handle the depths of the water, that it could snap my neck. And so they excluded me from that. And they ended up putting me on this fire crew, because see, I had all the low custodies and everything. I'm just an armed robber, okay? And I'm fighting fires, and I'm up in Bear Valley Springs, if you ever know California, Tehachapi, and we're cutting trail, and there's this campground, and there's this tent trailer up on the hill, and you could see a couple women in there getting undressed or dressed, not see them, but see them, okay? And so we're over there by it, and this door opens, and this young girl comes out, long dark hair, and a young lady, and so I said, hey, how you doing? And she said, you think you can make any more noise up here? You know, we're trying to sleep up here. And I said, well, we'll be here all week. If you'd like to leave a wake-up call, I could wake you up tomorrow, right? And she got mad and went back and slammed the door. So I knew she wanted me, okay? Because she talked to me. You know us alcoholics, right? She talked to me, okay? So I went home. I went back into my cell that night, and I wrote a letter, and I stuck it in my boot, and I smuggled it out. And, you know, I introduced myself as a poor Bostonian. I had been down about 4.5 years at the time, and I was on this program of rigorous honesty, Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was wondering if she would meet me in the bathroom for a quickie. And I had to be honest that there was no love involved in this. It was strictly lust, okay? And so I was honest, right? So I snuck it in there, and this is the delusion, right? And so she comes out the next day. I say, hey, there's a letter over there for you. So she goes in, gets the letter, goes in the camper, locks the door, and never comes out. Never comes out. So now I'm thinking, okay, you know, you got to have a backup plan. And my backup plan is I was just kidding, okay? Because if she gives it to the cop, they rearrest you, put you in the hole, all this other stuff. I was just kidding. She said, no, you weren't, right? And she said, I can't act like that. Da, 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 da. So we became friends, and she started writing me in prison. I started writing her. I'd like to introduce you to my wife, Kim, okay? That's it, yeah? So, that's really how we met. I remember months later, you know, her family, because she came from a well-to-do middle-class family. Dad was a national sales manager and sales guy to Tongue and Sunbeam Corp and all this stuff, and he was up there in his Lincoln and doing something, and we happened to be in that area, and I went up to him, and you're not supposed to, and I introduced myself to him, and I told him that I just wanted him to know that my intentions with his daughter were strictly honorable. I thought he was going to shoot me. So they started telling her to get the hell away from him. He's going to kill you. He's robbed you, right? All this stuff. Because they didn't know. They didn't know. But to make a long story short, I paroled. Okay, went through a few governors, and I paroled, and I was told that if I wanted to make this program, I owed myself a meeting. Not a weekend with her, but I owed myself a meeting. And that's, I got out on a Friday. I went to the Raptors in Newhall. Saturday, I went to a meeting, and I went to the Masonic Temple at an AA dance. Sunday was at Pacoima and San Fernando breakfast meeting, strong AA groups. Okay, Monday I was in Acton Rehabilitation. That's how I started my walk in sobriety. You know, and to make a long story short, all the dreams and stuff came true. The fair financial, economic, and security would leave with no new freedom and a new happiness, wouldn't regret the past. All the things happened, started businesses, got married, became a circuit speaker in Alcoholics Anonymous. Started reading my own press clippings on how good I was. Started traveling all over the country. Got married in Beaver, Utah at a convention, it was called. Came off the podium, married Kim, 12-stepped her into the program. I didn't realize she was one of us. Married her when she had 90 days sober. She's got 34 years now. Okay? Started having kids. All the things, joined a rock and roll band that I always wanted to join. Became a lead singer of a couple different bands, right? Bought a home in Valencia. Built a custom home on Cape Cod. 300 acres wildlife conservation area. Moved Kim and a couple of the kids back there. Flying between LA and Boston 4 or 5 times a month, getting picked up by limousine, chauffeured wherever I wanted. I mean, this program really works after making 20 cents an hour for years, and now I'm making more money you could shake a stick at, you know, houses on each coast, 13 cars, all that stuff, living the dream, right? Speaking, Mr. AA, my sponsor died. First thing, sponsor died. I don't need a new sponsor, I know AA, right? I got this, I know AA. God's my sponsor. You ever hear one song? God's my sponsor? Yeah, I'm listening to an idiot now. That's me, right? God's my sponsor. All of a sudden, I'm not carrying this message anymore. Okay? I'm carrying Scotty's message. What's your name? Yeah. Chris? So this is how I would share. Me. All right, enough about me. Let's talk about you, Chris. What do you think about me? Okay? That's how I'm sharing now. It's all about me. I gave that step away. We worked the steps in order, and I'm here to tell you you can get them back in order. Okay? Gave it away. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve this conscious contact. We become seekers. All of a sudden, I'm not seeking anymore. 5 years sober, I stopped getting on my knees. Because you can talk to God anywhere. You can talk to Him in the shower, the car, whatever. And that's true. I didn't understand the form of getting on my knees, that humility where we don't crawl before any man except for God, and that acknowledgement, and I stopped that. Okay? I'm not seeking anymore. I gave that 11th step away. Continue to take personal inventory. When we're wrong, promptly admitted it. All of a sudden, I'm judging you. I'm coming into meetings. 12 years. Okay? Ah, shit. She's a liar. She's cheating on her husband. Oh, he's full of crap. Oh, he's going to share the same shit. Can he come up with anything new? Right? Now I'm judging. Now I'm not saying that. Remember, I don't have a spot. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying, oh, keep coming back. The program works. All of a sudden, I owe you an amends. And I would say to you, I owe you an amends. And you'd say, oh, thanks, Scott, and you'd walk away. And in my mind, I would say, I owe you one. I ain't giving you one. That mental masturbation. Started using the big book as a weapon. Okay, sort of like people do with the Bible. Not reading the before or after, the context of the character. Let's talk about sex. Who are you to judge me? God alone is the arbiter of my sex conduct. You ever hear people share that? They're usually doing something they shouldn't do. Okay? Because God's my judge. And now I'm doing things a married man shouldn't do in the lifestyle I'm living, and I'm killing my spirit. Okay? I'm killing myself. But I'm not going to drink. I'm sorry for what I've done. I want God to take me to bigger and better things. What it's like I'm a cook by trade. So if you gave me a shovel and brought me outside and said, dig a 20-foot hole, here's a shovel, no gloves, and I started digging, I wouldn't be able to do it because my hands would bleed and crack and blister and stuff, and eventually it would be so bad I couldn't do it. But if I went out here for 10 minutes today, and 10 minutes tomorrow, and 10 minutes the next day, in a matter of weeks, I'm going to have calluses all over my hands, and I'm going to be able to dig that hole. My experience tells me is that you can build a callus on your conscience through the little things that aren't acceptable, but through time and the justification and rationalization, we think it's okay. See, it says there's no middle of the road solution for people like us. I'm either going towards a drink or I'm going away from a drink. Okay? And for a long time in sobriety, I'm going towards a drink. So now I owe people amends. I'm not doing them. Step 6 and 7. 12 and 12 says this is the step that separates the men from the boys, the men being the perfect objective, which is of God, and then my objective. I'm back into my objective. 2 of the least understood steps in our program, only 2 short paragraphs in our book, and we breeze right through them. Not understanding that this is a lifetime process. Okay? And that the implications of those steps can kill you through the character defects and the shortcomings. They say in AA we only become as sick as our secrets. I start having a lot of secrets in AA. Okay, and I backed myself right up to the third step, where it says, the rest of my program depends upon how earnestly I do this step and continue my thoughts and my actions, my will and my life. The insanity returned. It does not say we drink and get insane. It says the insanity returns, and then we drink. And I drank. Mr. AA, Mr. Circuit Speaker, I drank. Turned my back on AA, my family, everything. You know, next thing I'm in a bitter divorce, restraining orders, all this stuff, at several restaurants in California, all this stuff. And just to make a long story short, coming in and out of AA one more time, people saying, you're done now? Got enough arrows in your ass now? Can I be your sponsor? Oh, that used to really tick me off. People that I had sponsored with 20 years sober, that I had done their 5th steps with, and they're asking me to be my sponsor now, right? Just messing with me, and I would be gracious and no, and I'd walk out the door and I'd get loaded. See, I know what it's like, you people that raised your hand. I know what it's like to have 10, 11 days sober and make a decision, I'm done, I don't want to drink anymore, I'm done, and walk out the door and get loaded. Anyway, book says when this type of thinking is fully established in the alcoholic, he has probably placed himself beyond human aid. What does that mean? That means you can't help me. That means AA can't help me. Okay? I've placed myself beyond human aid, and that unless locked up, he may die or go permanently insane. That's where I put myself one more time. I had to have God's help, and I couldn't find him. My friend Lou said to me, Scotty, it's pretty hard for one God to recognize another God. Think about that. Think about that. So fast forwarding, I've lost everything, restraining orders against me, all this other stuff, back in doing all the things I shouldn't be doing, hanging around a lot of people I shouldn't be hanging around with, back in the mix, down to 129 pounds, sucked up, looking out the window for the bush people because they were there, okay? Up 9 days, drinking, can't stop. Until I finally, on Christmas night, 1996, I took a .25 automatic and I shot myself in the head. Boom. I just wanted it to stop. And I shot myself. And the bullet went in the side here, blew out the top of my head. I came to on full life support systems. The Antelope Valley Medical Center. I remember Kim shares sometimes when she got the call that I was shot myself in the head and that I was in intensive care. And I still drank. Can you imagine? Can't scare a real alcoholic. And this is where my story gets a little weird. The state of California stepped in and they charged me with ex-felon with a gun. That's what they charged me with. I have 11 felony convictions, armed robbery, gun allegations with use. They charged me for trying to kill myself, for shooting myself, right, for ex-felon with a gun. And before that whole ordeal was over, I'm in Chino State Prison, okay, 21 years ago, and they're giving me 25 to life. Okay, they struck me out, ruling it was my 4th strike, and they're giving me 25 to life. And I had a thought. I love these thoughts. My thought was, I want to be sober now. I'll work the steps now. I'll get a sponsor now, right? We get spiritual real quick when we go into those places, and I'm no different. You know, and that relationship that my wife Kim said that was so damaged that even God couldn't fix it. That's what she said to me one day. Our relationship is so damaged that God couldn't even fix it. And I went into the penitentiaries again, and I started doing the work and going to meetings and working the steps again. The honesty came back, all that stuff. And a letter campaign started. She started. People all over the country wrote letters to this judge. And if you've ever read the Bible and Daniel in the lion's den or Peter sitting there, the light coming and the chains falling off, that's my story. Because on October 7th, 1997, Judge Chelsea McKay in the Lancaster Superior Court pulled me out of state prison and he stood me in front of him. And he's looking at all these letters and stuff, and he's saying, you know, I don't understand this. He says, you seem to have helped a lot of people. How could you do this to yourself? See, he didn't understand the disease of alcoholism, how we can build this pretty picture to our wives, our boss, our moms. This time, please give me another chance. I'm going to change. I want to do good. Please give me one more chance. And we're such good con artists that we usually get them to give us another chance. And then we tear the house down. And if we're honest and we can honestly say why we do it, we don't know why we do it. I don't know why I did it again. Okay? I know what led me to that. But God touched him. He struck 2 of my strikes and he released me the next day with a 5-year tale, of which the last 21 years has been a whirlwind. Naturally, I reunited with my wife. We never did get divorced. Renewed our vows in the church. Had another child. She came to me almost 42 with another pregnancy. My oldest is 39. Came to me with an early pregnancy test. He's Tommy. He's great. He's great. You know, it rains on the just as well as the unjust. Good things happen to bad people. Bad things happen to good people. We've had life over this time, and deaths and tragedies and illnesses and all sorts of stuff. Okay, but I was taught that we get to walk through things with a little simple dignity. That's what we do. You know, outsiders are sometimes shocked when we burst into merriment over seemingly tragic experiences out of our past. But why shouldn't we laugh? We have recovered, recovered and been given the power to help others. I don't think the way I used to think. I don't act the way I used to act. Okay? None of us like that leveling of the pride, the confession of the shortcomings or sins, the things that this requires for its successful consummation. See, there's certain things that's required if I don't want to live like this anymore. And I got to do the work. They couldn't do it for me. I can't do it for you. You know, we've seen how far down is. Why don't we see how far up is? I love it when that was said to me. Scotty, we've seen how far down is. Why don't we see how far up is? And I'm telling you, up is pretty high. Low is pretty low. You know, I've traveled all over the country and the world. A couple of weeks we're going to be all over in Europe and all that. But that stuff's not to impress you. It's really not. It's to impress upon you that I don't care where you are right now. You can become whatever you're capable of becoming as long as you're honest and willing enough to try this. You know, it's your deal. It's not my deal. You know, it says in our book, we can't solve the riddle. I can't solve the riddle. You know, lack of power was my dilemma. How do I get that power? How do I get to stay sober today? I used to sit here for years and think, it's got to be this, it's got to be that. One day at a time. What the hell do you mean one day? One day at a time. You ever see that One Day at a Time book? Shit, it sat in my bathroom, and I'd read it for 2 weeks, and you know, I want to get right to the thought, the prayer, the meditation, right? You know, I want to see what it is. I'd read it for 2 weeks, then I wouldn't read it for 2 months, then I'd read it for 2 weeks. Because I one day at a time. All of a sudden, I decided to read that book. This is several years ago. I decided to read that book and say, right, like the big book, from the beginning, first page blank, turn the page. And all of a sudden, there's this writing in there from the Sanskrit, Hindu writing. And I thought, oh my God. It says, look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the realities and varieties of existence, the bliss of growth, the splendor of action, the glory of power. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. That's our 24 hours. And I thought, oh, that's what they mean by 24 hours. Now, I was in AA 40 years before I figured that one out. I hope you don't have to be there that long, because now you know. Say you don't know, now you know. Biggie, right? Yeah. Say you don't know, now you know. Yeah. How many people have been in AA before? This is not your first time. How many people came to AA, got sober, and you've been sober since you came? All right, see, that's how you should do it. Just, okay, that's not how a lot of us do it these days, but that's how you should do it. But see, one of the things when it was talked earlier today about shooting our wounded, I wrote this thing when I was in the penitentiary. I was in the whole long story, but I'm just going to make it real simple. There will be those of us, okay? See, and this is really when you get down to it, okay? When one who has wandered far into selfishness and self-centeredness seek to return to the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, he will encounter criticism and distrust. There will be those that whisper, he's a newcomer again. I don't think he'll make it this time either. You know, these wicked ones are doing not the work of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous or of their higher power, but of their own selfish, self-centered interests. They seek to drive the returning member still farther from hope and from sobriety. You know, let the returning member contemplate the rejoicing in heaven over the return of the one that was lost. Let him in no way be disheartened by the suspicion and scorn of others. He can again walk in the sunlight of the Spirit. See, because that's what this program was founded off of, love and tolerance. Not the judgment, condemnation that we give each other around here sometimes. Okay? I'll leave you with this because I can talk for hours. I really can. I get going. My sponsor calls it Arfy Darfy Land. Because I go, but I come back. My hope for you is that, you know what, you do this for you. That you get sober, you stay sober, you grasp and develop this manner of living, okay? That rigorous self-honesty. And part of it, what helped me was one thing I read that used to be on the actual tables back in the 50s in AA and Akron and Cleveland and stuff. But it was a poem, okay, that I had read. And it was called The Man in the Glass, meaning the mirror. You look at yourself in the mirror, because the eyes are the windows to the soul. See, I can bullshit you being up here, you can bullshit me. I don't know if you're telling the truth. You don't know if I'm telling you the truth. When I look in that mirror and the eyes are the windows to the soul, I can't fool myself because I know. I know. And I read this poem and it literally changed my life. And what it says is that when you get what you want in your struggle for self, and the world makes you king for a day, just go to a mirror and look at yourself and see what that man has to say. For it isn't your father or a mother or a wife whose judgment upon you must pass. The fellow whose verdict that counts most in your life is the one staring back from the glass. He's a fellow to please, never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear up till the end. And you've passed your most dangerous, difficult test if the man in the glass is your friend. You know, some people may call you a straight shooting chum and call you a wonderful guy, but the man in the glass says you're only a bum if you can't look him straight in the eye. You know, you may fool the whole world down the pathway of life and get pats on your back as you pass. But your final reward will be heartaches and tears if you've cheated the man in the glass. You see, I cheated myself for a long time, both in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't like my booze watered down. Didn't like my drugs cut either. What do I want the program of Alcoholics Anonymous watered down for? This is the real deal. If you're an alcoholic, I'd like to welcome you to Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank you.
Let's thank Scott one more time for coming out and sharing. Always an epic talk. Always an epic talk. It's customary for us to form a line and formally thank our speakers. They do come here at their own time and expense when they have a life, and just to share a message of hope and recovery, it's very important. We're going to need a lot of help here cleaning this up and putting these tables away if you want to be of service, hang out afterwards. Don't forget the meeting after the meeting. We got a nice way of closing if you care to join us, and we'll see you again next week. We'll have to just do it right where we're at tonight. Link up hands as best we can. I'd like to thank everyone that took place and brought something over the years and has given something to this group. Are you actually getting started here? All right, let's take everybody hooked in? Let's take a moment of silence. Do with it whatever you care to do with it, and you care to join us with the line with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven,
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Keep coming back to work.